Cool video on this copwatch Potter channel.
Well, then what you stop me for then? Because I've got a power to under law. I'm telling you, under God's gift.
So basically, right, there's a young lad, right, and he is stopped by the police. The police say speeding, but there's no speed camera or anything. It's just that the coppers saw him. I don't even think the coppers' vehicle recording equipment might have videoed him, but I don't think that he was like, driving up behind him or anything. He just saw him and it looked like he was speeding. So he's saying, look, I want your details. And this young lad is, he's giving him all this Verbs channel, Rachel Eleanor Love, Colchester Council Watch, William Keat, Graham Moore, kind of constitutional law stuff, right? That, his right to travel and move around is his legal right and you can't take that from him, right? But he doesn't exactly know it or understand it properly, and these coppers don't know it either. But the coppers adamantly saying, well, I'm using this, section, that of the law, and I have powers to do this or that, right? And this lad, he's really keen and he's really enthusiastic and he's really trying. And he's seen these videos, these channels, these programs such as Verbs, channels like that. So he kind of know, he likes it, he's interested in it, and he's having a go at it, but he doesn't exactly know properly. And even if you did exactly know it properly, the police isn't probably not going to believe this officer or understand it, because it's a problem with the courts and it's a problem with how the police policy's set up, and it's a problem with the whole force and central government, right? But he's trying, and he's really, he's coming out with all this, kind of Magna Carta stuff, which is about, his right to travel and so forth. But, so he's arguing about giving his details over as well. Now, Graham Moore has said to people that, if you get stopped by the police, just say no comment, no comment, no comment. But there's the government have changed the laws, so if it's to do with driving things, you can't remain silent, right? Because it's an effect that there are certain offences that they've made, which I don't know how they can do that, right? I don't even know how they can do that. That's got to be questionable. But effectively, this lad is saying that he's got a right. He's going on about an entity or a corporate body and how you yourself, you've got a birth certificate and you're an identifiable entity. But you don't even, some of these Verbs channels and some of these guests and some of these people are not really, they go into this common law, and the fact that, a jury can acquit you based on their conscience anyway and not apply the law. But what I think is really more relevant, and to make it simple in this video, that there's some separate things going on here, and there is actually something that you can explain to the police and you can say, right, which does apply in law, but there's also some things that you're not going to be able to prove unless you go to the High Court or get a really expensive lawyer. What this lad is using is some things that he's been told, but he's not explaining it or saying it in the exact clear way. So with this right to travel, you yourself are a person and you are just travelling, right? In the Magna Carta, it says that they can't take your your car off you that you're using for work. You use it for work. They can't take your means of work, and usage of, your horse and your cart to work, right? They can't take it from you freely, right? So now the thing is that has been repealed, okay? And Queen Elizabeth II in 1967 in the Criminal Law Act repealed a lot of Magna Carta. Now the thing is, what are the arguments for Magna Carta not being repealed? Lots of people say that, these things can't be changed or modified. Well, I've actually found, if you go into the actual government website, this is like, this police officer is talking about section, whatever, right? So what you'd say to this police officer is you'd say, type in legislation.gov, go on to the confirmation of the Charters Act and look at it, and it says, the Charter of Liberties and the Charter of the Forest, and this the same, that act cannot be repealed, changed, or modified. Now, there's an argument about Magna Carta, but Magna Carta's 1297 is put in when that confirmation of the Charters is put in 1297 as well. There's an argument of whether Magna Carta can be repealed or not, right? Now, so to clear up that about the actual Magna Carta, whether the actual Magna Carta 1297 can be changed or repealed or modified or altered, is this. Queen Elizabeth changed some of it in 1967 in the Criminal Law Act, okay? And she repealed some privileges, right? Yet, when they opened Parliament, in the Speaker's petition to the Lord Chancellor, he says that he's invoking into use and effect all of the ancient rights and privileges, all of them, right? You can't invoke them all into effect and use if they've been repealed. So there's a big mistake there. They made a big error. So are they using them all or aren't they? If they aren't repealed, right? And why would they say they're using all of them, right, that have ever been made into effect if they believe they could be repealed? Now, that's good, strong evidence that they thought or knew that the confirmation of the Charters does not therefore only mean the Charter of the Forest, the Charter of Liberties, the confirmation of the Charters itself, but also the Magna Carta, okay? Because if they believed that, then they would say we're invoking all of the ancient rights and privileges. That means that in their head, they knew that the Magna Carta as well cannot be repealed, same as the Charter of Liberties, and so forth. Because the Magna Carta actually gives the barons and lords their main privilege, because the Charter of Liberties says that they stand for their crimes like anyone else. The Magna Carta gives the lords and barons a special privilege, and this is way before the 1688 Bill of Rights, which is the 1688 Bill of Rights is the 1688 Bill of Rights, illegal prosecutions by the King's Bench from as cognisable, debatable, decidable, and by Parliament. That is actually proper parliamentary privilege. And that's not till 1688. Because really, the Magna Carta isn't really parliamentary privilege. It is Lords and Barons privileges. It's not MPs. It's not MPs. It's not Commons. It's not Commons privileges. They get the MPs get privileges because of Magna Carta in the right to be judged by your peers, right? But because they're following a cause, when they're in Parliament doing work, they're working for us, and we don't prosecute them. We don't charge them. We don't charge the MPs with crimes or offences when they're doing work for us, the public, right? So when we elect an MP, he's working for us, so he is following a cause. But unlike this copper's following a cause now, this copper's doing his job. This copper is employed to do his job, right, and uphold the law, okay? So he's following a cause, like he thinks this guy's been speeding, so he's upholding the law. An MP is elected like this police officer is employed, right? And that's from Magna Carta, hue and cry, or following a cause to the jurisdiction of Parliament. So MPs are like police officers. It's not in the 1688 Bill of Rights when they're given that. They got it from Magna Carta because they're officially declared to be following a cause, right? But it's not the privileges of the barons, right? The barons and lords privilege is separate to MPs. MPs are the same as us, kind of like when we're doing hue and cry, but with a case to the Parliament, right? That's the difference. So anyway, this 1967 Criminal Law Act and these repeals and other times when they've repealed these, that you're not going to prove that to this police officer. You're not going to prove it to the chief of police. He's not going to entertain it. You might persuade a magistrate's court if you're very articulate and convincing, and you're going there with loads of information and explain it to them very clearly with great clarity. But I don't know whether the magistrate's court has got the jurisdiction or authority to agree with that, because there have been arguments over this in the high courts, right? In loads of cases over Magna Carta. So I think that they've already made certain orders at the High Court. So I don't think that the Magistrates Court can do it because they're going to use case references and say that it's already been decided. So that's the problem with your Magna Carta. That's the problem with your right to drive and travel without your vehicle or means for transport being taken away from you for your job and livelihood, right? So that's that issue. Now, completely separate to that, but still in Magna Carta, but under a completely different clause in Magna Carta. So it's still this argument over Magna Carta, right? But not that argument, not the rights and privileges, or your right to have your vehicle and not have it taken off you for work ever by the authorities if you don't consent or agree to it. This is to do with the police now. So we're moving on to a different subject, but kind of still Magna Carta, right? So it does still argue if Magna Carta has been repealed or not, but on a different part of it, right? A different part of the Magna Carta. And this is the police, right? That the police can't hold pleas, right? They can't hold pleas. They can't hold common pleas. The sheriffs can't, the police chief, the police force cannot hold pleas with you for a felony. So that means take admission of guilt from you. So they can't say, here, there's a conditional offer. If you say you're guilty, right, you did the crime, then we'll give you 3 penalty points as your punishment and a fine, right? Because you admitted that you're guilty to the police or the ticket office. I know they've got these endorsement clerks. It's not the court. Police station isn't the court. In Warrington, there's a police station built onto the side of the court. The police is not a magistrate, and it's not a court. It's not a court of... the police is not a court of record. It's not even a court. The police is the police. The ticket office is the ticket office. I don't care what the fucking endorsement clerk is, but a magistrate's court is not a court of record anyway, right? So, police chief cannot accept a guilty plea from you, right? If this lad gave this police officer his details and his reg and his road tax and his insurance details and showed him his driving license, and then this police officer used that evidence and charged him, right? He cannot take a guilty plea or offer him a 3-point conditional offer fine, right, for what he did. And that is what he's going to do. And that is actually illegal what the police are doing. They can't do it. Because the driving license it's your possession. It's a thing. It's an item. It's a chattel. And it is also your livelihood. Like under the Magna Carta with your right to work and so forth. But it's not just money, right? It's an actual thing. A court can only take your things off you, right? Felony, right? Through jury, with a jury trial, or in a court of record. Okay? A magistrate's court isn't a court of record. It's not a proper court of record. They don't record proceedings. When you go in there, it's not like recorded on an audio tape. They don't have a recorder. He isn't taking down all the details of what happened in the magistrate's court. That's why they record, they put, when they write the order, they make the order out, but all the dialogue in proceedings, everything that happened isn't recorded, right? So you can't analyse, like at a later date, if you want to scrutinise that court and say they didn't stick to proceedings, or they didn't apply the overriding objectives, or they didn't follow a procedure rule, like in the William Penn case when they've got all this dialogue in a Crown Court, you press a tape recorder like in a police when you get a police make interview tapes. When a police officer is interviewing you, right, he's got tapes, but it's not a court of record. Those tapes are records of evidence, right? Defined in law, it is a record of evidence. It's not a court of record. And it's not recording proceedings in the court. He's only recording a statement which will be used to prosecute you, right? The magistrates' court aren't a court of record. If they were, then you would have a field day going through all the records and seeing what they've done wrong. I mean, just look at the law. We're going through the law and looking at the law, what the government have done wrong now. Like with Andrew Jones MP and his seatbelt thing, which is another argument to do with licenses for businesses and companies where they can operate, and your delivery notes showing what your delivery run is, and if you're on a schedule, that can be used as a defence that you've got a schedule to keep. This officer's prosecuting this lad, right? This lad's in his normal car, but it doesn't look like he's working, driving a delivery vehicle. If he was, he could say to the officer, well, here's my delivery note schedule, and I'm late, right? And the police officer actually can take that as a reasonable excuse or defence himself without even prosecuting, right? But it doesn't look like he's in a delivery vehicle now. Those delivery notes are in law used as proof that you're doing a certain delivery route and run, right? Now, what Andrew Jones MP did is, when all the legislation is laid out in the order, you can see what he did. He just came in, he didn't acknowledge all that. Like a bus route has a route, the 69 bus route, that is what the route is, fixed, and he's got a license to operate on that route, same as a taxi. The taxi's route is where the customer tells him to go, and then back to his rank again, right? Andrew Jones MP said, right, I'm going to prescribe a distance of 50 metres. That is that anyone can only drive 50 metres. When the other acts, that seatbelt law is in multiple acts. And what happens is that the previous law says as prescribed. Well, it's prescribed by your company as operating licence, and your delivery notes are prescribed. When a doctor gives you a prescription, he writes it out. When your employer gives you your delivery notes, they write it out and printed. They've got a legal effect. If you go into a court and say, you were speeding, right? Well, here's my delivery run. My boss wanted to get me back in time. Here's, a message from him to say, get back to work or I'm going to sack you. And here's the run that I was doing, right? That is evidence of a defence, right? So those delivery notes actually really apply for the seatbelt law. But what Andrew Jones did, he said, it's 50 metres for everyone, right? 50 metres, right? That's not a prescribed run or route. It's not even anything. And there was already law when he did that saying the opposite, right? And he just thought that he could do what he wanted in the law. But he created a contradiction in legislation, a conflict of fact in legislation, because he just thought that, I'm Andrew Jones and I'm MP and I can make whatever laws up I want, just like Elizabeth when she repeals this Magna Carta, when she can't because they're still opening Parliament with it. And this is MPs. They're not lawyers, they're not qualified, they're groomed by their parties, they're just a bloke or a woman like Rachel Reeves who gets elected, loads of people vote for them, they go into Parliament, and then they've got these advisors who haven't been elected, these Malcolm Jacks, these parts of the cabinet, they're parts of the nooks and crannies in Parliament, Sir Malcolm Jacks, who are part of the cabinet door, it's almost like on Alice in Wonderland when you've got these teacups with faces on them, like Sir Malcolm Jack, he's like some kind of, like the shoe people or something, doop-de-doop-de-doo, the shoe people, telling them what to do, talking to them, saying, oh, even though you are the minister and you've been elected, you can't do this or that, you can't do this or that, it says. They should be telling Andrew Jones MP that he can't do this or that, but, he's Superman, he can do what he wants. But Andrew Jones MP made a critical, flawed error in legislation, right? And so did Queen Elizabeth when she signed off that Magna Carta repeal, because how can she sign it off when the Speaker is, putting a petition through to the Lord Chancellor saying, we're invoking all these rights into effect and privileges, all of them, every single one of them. Even though Elizabeth's repealed them. So there's a contradiction, error, fatal flaw. Now, coming back to this, right, let's get back to this car with this lad now, right? So, the police cannot hold pleas, right? Okay? Now, so there's an argument over Magna Carta, but I've just explained to you what the argument over Magna Carta is for its effect, right? So that Magna Carta will apply to the police in how they're operating and what they're doing. But you won't. This police officer has been given commands and orders by his chief, and he's also under an employment policy, and he's got all his modern legislation, which he's learned, which he's reeling off, which he believes that he's got the powers. And so he's gonna have the confidence to, do his job, where this lad has not got the. Well, it probably comes down to the High Court, really, when it comes to that whole Magna Carta thing. Now, even though the Magna Carta has been repealed, though, for that common pleas and the police, there's another part to it, though, still. Now, that is that the police and the government, when they made all these 3 points on your license, endorsements, and the law around disqualification, if you rack up 9 points and then you go to court if you've got 12, that they based that on the fact that they kind of knew about the fact that they shouldn't really be taking your license off you if you get speeding, because you've got the right to a fair trial, really. So that's why they really split it up into 3 or 4. They split it up so you get 3 points, then you get another 3 points, then you got 6, then you get another 3 points, then you've got 9, right? But you haven't yet been to court. But it's still a conviction, and it still contributes towards taking your license off you. They're taking your license off you sequentially. So when you get to the court, right, when you've got 9 points and then you get another 3 points, they say, right, the police chief says, I'm not going to take your license off you. I'm going to send you to the court. You have to go to court, right? I can't give you any more conditional offers, right? So he's saying, I'm not actually taking your driving license. I'm not taking your driving license off you, right? I'll send you to the court. But when you go into the court, you're not there because you just sped once and you got 3 points. You're there because of several offences which you admitted to and confessed, and the police chief convicted you of, which are all contributing. You wouldn't be facing a court having your driving licence taken off you if you hadn't have been forced to confess 3 times without a fair trial. So you're about to have your driving licence, you're being charged, you're being asked to plea, right? And they can't do that, right, without you already confessing 3 times without a fair trial or jury. So you're in court because you confessed 3 times without a trial or jury, right, or court of record, and now they're going to take your driving licence off you. But you wouldn't be there facing having your driving licence taken off you if you haven't have confessed 3 times illegally, right? Because it's all one. Either they're going to take your driving licence off you because you confessed once, twice, 3 times. It's almost like, Beetlejuice, 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 or, Abracadabra, or Shazam, 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 or whatever. It's, in my opinion, it's all or nothing, right? Because the evidence, right, against you is that you've had 3 offences which you confessed to, which is why you're there and how you're there, and now you're in front of a magistrate, right? So, this is the thing. Now, when you're in front of a magistrate, even if you've got 9 points and you're facing another 3, this is the thing, right? It's not a court of record. Magistrate's court, not a court of record. Neither have they got a jury, right? Court of record or jury, right? Well, have you got either? Flip a coin. Well, court of record or jury. Well, you ain't got a jury, and it's not a court of record, right? So, riddle me that, right? Where's my jury? Where is it? Well, ask for one. Oh, send me to the Crown Court, right? And really serious now, right? Must be really serious, right? Going, like, oh, well, you did it 3 times. Well, what, drove at 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. It's hardly serious enough to be a felony, is it? Although you're trying to take my driving licence off me, right? It's not a court of record, or there's no jury. Neither. So, like, if there was a jury and it wasn't a court of record, that would be something, right, which is a magistrates' court in the early 1800s, which isn't a court of record, but has got a jury, right? 1820, hundreds court, not called magistrates, hundreds court, 1820, there's my jury, it's not a proper court of record, right? You've been speeding, what did the jury say, right? Or, here's the assizes are here, right? The assizes are coming round, right? There's a judge, right? Oh, I'm deciding not to have a jury. I'm not going to have a jury, right? It's the assizes. There is one of the King's Justices. It's a court of record or quarter sessions. We won't have a jury. Well, it's a good job it's a court of freaking record then, isn't it? Right? Those magistrates' courts are nothing, right? And none of those magistrates hardly illegally qualified. Apparently someone said they did a 5-day training course, right? They're not QC, KC. Some of them, I'm sure some of them must be ex-police officers. You would have thought that a lot of the police chiefs would try and get police or ex-police into the courts, but maybe, someone higher up kind of thought, we can't, be too blatantly corrupt, or whatever. A guy referred to them as a couple of turkeys or whatever, whatever. I don't know, but I've been in front of them. They never entertain any of the legislation. Like, if you actually are delivery driving and you got a schedule to keep, and you got delivery run, they never entertain that. They never entertain it by post. They never entertain it if you turn up. That's law. That's modern law. That's in Act, Road Traffic Act, Road Traffic Regulation Act, 1987, section blah, 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 777, whatever. This police guy's pulling up, is going, I have got powers. I am a police officer. I am a police officer of the law. Section 3749 of the Territory Police Act gives me powers to requisition you now. You will comply with me. I have the power. Right? But why is it when you say, the police officer, yeah, I'm delivering for work, I'm late, and my boss says I'm just going to sack me if I don't get back, and here is the delivery notes, right? So I've got reasonable excuse, and it's a defence. Why doesn't he, the police officer, this is the thing, they don't even accept it in the court, right? They're just like, no, don't want to know about it. It's their law. It's like Murphy's Law. It's for them. I'm a police officer. This is my law for me. I am using it on you. Right? Well, and this is the thing. People are starting to get interested in these laws and rights and privileges and use them. But, this is the thing. They don't even grant it to us when it is the actual law and in actual effect. That confirmation of the Charters Act is like rock solid, actually, to be honest. It is an argument over whether it includes the Magna Carta or not, given that the whole point of that confirmation of the Charters, 1297, is when they put the Magna Carta into the law, 1297. That's the whole point. It's like a ceremony, a dual thing. And the Magna Carta actually confirms the Charter of Liberties and the Charter of the Forest together at the same time. So, from what the Speaker's doing in Parliament, with the Lord Chancellor, it is, they're saying all the rights and privileges are enforced. So, that is good evidence that Magna Carta hasn't been repealed. And why would they say that if it wasn't under the same confirmation of the Charters Act and the same, right? When they say and this the same, well, the confirmation of the Charters confirms the Charters of Liberty and Forest as the same, does the Magna Carta as well as the same, right? So, that's the argument. And the opening of Parliament, which, they've got to be in contempt of Parliament. And contempt of Parliament is actually, you actually forfeiting privileges because you're making a crime, right? You're making a crime, false statement. So the MPs and the cabinet really, are actually forfeiting their privileges, but the lords and barons get the privilege of being their own judges, which is separate from parliamentary privilege, really. but I'm just about to read a book about that from that Sir Malcolm Jack guy and see what he's got to say about it, which is about 80 pages long. But so what could have been done with this police officer? Well, it depends what he's doing, if he's working or not, or if it's just his own car travelling. If you were working and if you were delivering and if you've got a schedule, you know, and if you're going to get sacked if you don't get round it on time, then you can say that's a police officer, can be accepted as a reasonable excuse. And a defence. Don't have to go to court for it because it's an actual defence from the charge or accusation. So you could dispute that with a police officer. Then there's the Graham Moore basis where he just says, you know, no comment. And if this police officer hasn't really got much evidence and you don't give him any statement, it could be difficult to be convicted just on the police officer's statement, depending on what footage he's got. But saying that, they've made all these laws up to say that he can't be silent if it's for driving offences. So, you know, should he have just told him his driving license? Should he have just showed him his license and his insurance, and then, you know, took his details down and then driven off? He could have done that, but then he might have had to defend it. But they might have not had very strong evidence against him. And then, you know, whatever in court. But the thing is that what I think is that I don't think that the police can give you 3 points or fine you without going to court. I don't think they can for these offences. And they can be explained that. It can be explained to them, say, you know, this is my driving licence that you're wanting to put points on, which contributes towards you taking it off me, and that's a felony. And, you know, you can't hold pleas. You can't take a confession from me. And if you send me to the magistrate's court, firstly, right, there's no jury there. Secondly, it's not a proper court of record. So, right, you can't do that either. You can ask for a jury in the court, but why should you have to ask for one? If they're not going to offer you one, and it's not a proper court, not even going to offer you a proper court of record afterwards, and like send you the full fucking dialogue from what was said, then, you know, I think that the whole thing's illegal. And I think it's illegal in the same, you know, they made mistakes. Someone's made mistakes, you know, they made mistakes. They've actually made errors, mistakes. Andrew Jones MP has made mistakes. The Queen's made mistakes. There are a lot of mistakes in law. But the thing is that the MPs are meant to have privilege and be protected from what they've done wrong. But if you do something wrong, that's forfeiture. Surely fraud, or you see, this is when you get into fraud and forfeiture, because, you know, you know, if you've got the right to make legislation and change legislation, right, but you're saying that this means that, right, if you get a Lego brick, right, and if you've got the Lego bricks, right, and you've got the right to dismantle the Lego brick police station and build a fire station, right, you can do that. And if you've got Lego and you've got a Lego hospital and you want to dismantle it and build, like, you know, an airport, then you can do that. And if you've got Lego bricks and you want to build like a tower, or you want to build a Millennium Falcon or whatever, you can do that. But what they're actually doing is that, you know, the Lego bricks are meant to connect to each other, and they're all meant to be designed to fit properly, which is called compatibility. And the Lego bricks are supposed to connect together properly with a proper, assembly, right? Assemblage, so that it works properly and that it properly connects and operates properly. And what they're actually doing is they're lying. Like, you can't say this is a 6-brick Lego brick, right? When it's like a wooner, right? And then, you know, stick, put it this way, right? If you build a tower of wooners, right, and claim that they were bricks of 6, and then you stick a massive, you build a spaceport on the top of it, it's going to fucking fall over, right? Because wooners cannot hold up unless you glue them or something. But, you know, come on, realistically, if you're not saying, right, what it is, then you're lying, right? So if Andrew Jones is not saying that the prescribed seatbelt law is based on the companies operating license areas, the haulage license, the bus route license, and the prescribed delivery run, which has been given to the driver, prescribed by his boss, just as a doctor prescribes your fucking medicine, right? And that is where you're driving, and that is where you don't have to wear your seatbelt on. If Andrew Jones MP lies and says that that is not the case, right? Says there is no prescribed route, and I'm now prescribing 50 metres from the ether when that other thing already exists. Therefore, there's a law which says that your prescribed run is what your delivery routes are prescribed for and what your contractor's operating license is, right? That's what it says in law. If Andrew Jones prescribes 50 metres at the same time, you've got a conflict and contradiction, right? He's made a incompatibility of law, right? Now, if he repeals the other one at a later time, then whatever. But at the time he prescribed it, he did it wrong. He lied, right? It's false. So this is the thing with Andrew Jones MP. He doesn't really know what he's a meddler. He's meddling. He's meddling in law, and he doesn't really know what the fuck he's doing properly, right? Which means he's amateur. So he's made a cock up. Plus, 50 metres is... What use is that for anyone, right? What's the point? There's no point in doing it. When you've got buses coming past you, when there's about fucking, 80 people on it with no seatbelt on. It's like joke, comedy. It's like, oh, it's for your safety. Well, now what they're doing is say, oh, the speed limit's reduced for air quality. So it's not even about safety. If they were bothered about safety and picking up dead bodies all day, but now they're just doing it, now it's, they made a big road, it's very clear, there's no traffic there. Now they're just coming up with all this air pollution and extorting money off you and stuff like that. Well, you broke the speed limit. Well, there was no danger, it was air pollution. But they're putting points on your license because there's no danger on the road, but just for air quality. But yet they're still trying to take your chatels off you without a jury, without a court of record. The police can't hold pleas with you. It's all, it's like fully automated justice. It's like, robot. It's like Judge Dredd, robot law. It's like, a robot, a machine, right, is videoing you and convicting you and sending you a letter and then putting something on your license. It's all automated. And if they could have a ticket office that was all automated, they would. If they could have a central ticket office which even could send Deliveroo or whatever, they would do that. They wouldn't have one single person involved. So where's the witness? You have to have a police officer. But I don't even think that the police officer. I don't think the police officer is the, because you got to have two witnesses, and the thing is, the police officer or sheriff himself, you have to have another citizen who says that you broke the law and can say that you broke the law. And if you don't give a statement yourself, you see, they can't prosecute you on your own statement or in your own thing. Now, the police officer is a witness, but there's also another member of the public as well. So this is what Magna Carta is all about. It's to prevent the police just from, sending out fines. Basically say, no, you did this, you did that, you did that, and then just sending you fines and getting it automatically put on, and you haven't really had a fair trial. And even your peers can forgive you anyway. With a jury trial, your peers can forgive you. And if you've got a court of record, you can say, I went into the magistrate's court, I said that I've got a delivery run, I claim this section whatever out of the Road Traffic Regulation Act, I had a schedule, and my employer said, I'd lose my job if I didn't do it. And the justice ignored that. He completely ignored it. He just said, it's a lot of tosh, which so many of these magistrates do not, well, they lie. They're dealing with these driving cases all the time, and people use that law, try to use it all the time, and they just ignore it. It's like it doesn't exist. But yet, Officer 7345 can come up and go, I am using Section 345 with powers of the Act. Do you comply with me now? This is it. You go into the magistrate's court and go, this is a defence. I am, being, I got scheduled by my employer. There's the delivery room. right? There is the threat of, sacking or whatever on the table, done. Right, that's it. But they don't let you have that. Even when you send it in, they just, doop, can I have a bacon sandwich? No. Doop, it says it on there, £1.70. Doop, that's it. It's... But you can't... They're not a court of records, so they're not... You don't have all this written down like in the William Penn and William Mead trial when it's all written down, we got rights, Magna Carta privileges, you don't deserve any privileges, I'm going to, put my mark on you, we'll send you to jail and cut your ears off, you couldn't, all this, this dialogue, what happened, you don't have that in a magistrate's court, which is why it is utterly, completely corrupt with no adhesion to procedure rules at all. Sending when you get a letter late through the post, you didn't receive it within 14 days and all this. It's magistrates' courts. Why didn't they make magistrates' court into a proper full court of record with audio recordings? Maybe they've got too many cases going through or whatever, or don't they want it all to be recorded? Don't they want it to be recorded when they said, you can't plead guilty because there are too many people pleading guilty. You'll have to, plead not guilty, or you can't plead not guilty. Tough. They're actually trying to force you with respect to persons. And in America, in the judicial oath, it's like when we're about respect to persons. So they're trying to tell you what you were pleading, and they're not pleading even in some of these magistrates' courts when I were in there. They're saying you can't plead this way in this room. You've got to go into the other room and plead not guilty, or you've got to plead guilty in the other room because the not guilty room's full. That's completely and totally illegal, but there's no court of record, so you don't get all that recorded, you don't get written down that the justice has told the defendant that they're too busy in the court they've got allocated for not guilty pleas, and that the defendant would have to plead guilty in the other court because we're too busy, right? That boom, right? That is fucking done. You're sacked. Go up, clock out and fuck off. That you're sacked. Clock out and fuck off. You're in contempt of court. Where's the court of record? Where is it? Where is it written down in writing? That happened there in that courtroom. It's not, because it is a seething cesspit of sin and corruption and incompetence and people who haven't learned the law. A procedure nightmare of corrupt practice, and that's the problem with the courts. This is the thing. So there are some things this lad could have done, but I don't think that he didn't look like that he was working. He was just in his normal car for himself. But again, the police aren't meant to. I don't think that the police can give you points and a fine and accept a confession off you. The police themselves cannot take the confession, and they are doing, and that's the difference. And we're not getting a jury who might forgive you even if you were speeding, as per what this Defend Our Juries campaign is kind of raising awareness of, with the Defend Our Juries campaign, and it's just all automated. Basically, it's just like a fucking machine, so they can just get loads of fines through, rack up massive amounts of money, and then they delete them. Never mind, it's not a court of record. They're deleting them after 5 years, so you don't even know how many they actually did or have done, unless everyone in the country saved their letters. And then they delete the video footage and all. They're deleting evidence themselves, and now they're just saying that it doesn't even matter if it's dangerous. It's not about being dangerous. It's about air quality or whatever, which is a load of tosh. Because what happens if you got an electric car? Why would you have to? Is that trying to get people to force to buy electric cars when they're blowing up? You're safer. I'm sure you're safer, going down the motorway in a petrol car, even if it's polluting people, than in an electric car that could possibly explode at any given minute, blow up a multi-story car park. So it's just ridiculous.